The memo just came down from the board. We need an AI strategy by Q3. No defined problem, no data audit, no success criteria to be found. Just the pressure of a headline and a deadline. So you did what every other operations leader did. You took meetings with vendors. You watched demos that looked incredible in a conference room. You signed a contract with a company that promised transformation. And 6 months later, you have 12 disconnected pilots that don't talk to each other, a cloud compute bill that keeps on climbing, and a board asking where the ROI is. Welcome to the hype cliff. Gartner named it, Deloitte quantified it. 94% of enterprise AI projects failing to deliver. But those statistics don't tell you why. And the why is the only thing that will save you. I'm Robert Dempsey, AI knowledge architect and author of the AI Decision Advantage. I work with manufacturers, defense contractors, and cybersecurity organizations. And the conversation I keep having in boardrooms, on plant floors, over coffee, is always some version of the same thing. We know we need to do something with AI. We just don't know what we're actually building. That uncertainty is very expensive. It's actually what vendors exploit. It's what turns a $2.4 million implementation contract into a portfolio of demos that never shipped. This video is about closing that gap. Not with a checklist though, with an architectural lens that helps you tell the difference between a tool that prints money and a tool that just looks good in a demo. Let's get to work. Let's start by defining the mechanism of failure. It usually starts in the boardroom. 78% of CEOs report immense pressure from their boards to announce AI initiatives. Think about what that actually feels like. You're an operations leader who has spent years building something real, a team, a process, a production floor that runs. And now you're being asked to just bolt on a technology you didn't fully choose on a timeline driven by a headline, with your credibility on the line if it doesn't work. That pressure is real. And it's exactly what vendors are counting on. Lacking internal expertise, organizations rush to vendors who promise the world. They sign contracts averaging $2.4 million for implementation, expecting magic. But what they get is a generic model wrapped in a pretty nice user interface. This leads to pilot purgatory. You have a dozen distinct AI pilots just running in little silos. Marketing has a copywriting bot. HR has a recruiting screener. Maintenance has a vibration sensor from a third-party startup. None of these talk to each other. None of them are trained on your institutional context. And most critically, none of them are scalable. When the board asks for the ROI 6 months later, you have nothing but a bill for cloud compute and a list of hours saved that never translated into bottom line profit. That is the hype cliff. It's the moment when the enthusiasm evaporates and you are left holding a portfolio of digital debt. To avoid the cliff, you must understand the vendor trap. The vast majority of the AI market is designed to sell you rent-seeker AI. These are off-the-shelf tools where you rent the model, you rent the compute, and worst of all, you rent the logic. When you rely on these tools, you are subjecting your operations to a system that guesses the best answer based on the average of the internet. Not the physics of your production line, not the compliance requirements of your industry, not the 30 years of hard-won knowledge your senior engineers carry in their heads. But the risk goes deeper than just bad answers. It is about sovereignty. Research indicates that companies using only off-the-shelf AI tools see 40% higher data leakage incidents than those with sovereign capabilities. When you feed your proprietary SOPs and anomaly data into a model you don't control, you aren't just processing data. You are potentially training the infrastructure that your competitors will rent tomorrow. In a high-stakes industry, your data is your moat. If you pour your moat into a vendor's ocean, you haven't innovated, you've abdicated. Now, I don't build chatbots. I architect institutional brains. And an institutional brain must reside within your walls, governed by your rules, completely independent of a vendor's product roadmap. Now, let's talk about the metric that drives this bad behavior: hours saved. This is the metric of the hype cycle. Vendors love it because it's so easy to fake. If this tool writes an email in 5 seconds instead of 5 minutes, you've saved $50. In a regulated world especially, this is a strategic error. Optimizing for hours saved is optimizing for mediocrity. Research shows that companies focusing on efficiency metrics see 3 times lower ROI than those targeting strategic metrics like decision velocity and risk reduction. Think about it. If you save a junior engineer 10 hours a week, but they use a hallucinating AI to make a decision that causes a safety violation. What was the value of those hours? Negative $2 million. We need to pivot to strategic ROI. Instead of asking, how much time did we save? Ask, did we increase our decision velocity? Did we reduce the risk of catastrophic failure? Did we capture the tribal knowledge of a retiring expert before they left? True ROI in manufacturing and high-stakes industries comes from avoidance. Avoiding the downtime, avoiding the recall, avoiding the regulatory fine. These are the metrics of an institutional brain. They're harder to measure than hours saved, but they are the only ones that actually protect the P&L. If you're building a business case for your board, stop promising efficiency, promise resilience. So this all begs the question, how do you avoid the hype cliff and the vendor trap? You need a defensible framework, and you need an architecture that's built for your environment, not a generic one rented from a vendor's catalog. That's the foundation behind Aegis, a sovereign institutional brain designed specifically for manufacturers and defense contractors who can't afford to build on someone else's infrastructure. But regardless of what tools you use, the framework is the same. First, stop buying tools to find problems. Map your strategic outcomes first. What is the one decision that, if made perfectly every time, would change your business? Start there. Second, validate your data readiness. You cannot build a sovereign brain on dirty data. You must clean your house before you invite the guest. Third, demand a sovereign proof of concept. If a vendor won't let you run the model on your own infrastructure, or if they claim the IP is in the model weights so you can't see them, just walk away. You are building an asset, not buying a subscription. The goal is to move from the sprint trap to a state of strategic sovereignty. We are entering the era of the AI hangover. The firms that chase the hype are about to wake up, holding a portfolio of digital debt, fragile pilots, vendor dependencies, and an institutional knowledge problem they still haven't solved. The leaders who win the next decade won't be the ones who adopted AI the fastest. They'll be the ones who built something they own. A sovereign architecture, grounded in their operational reality, secured within their own infrastructure, and trained on the tribal knowledge that no vendor will ever understand. That is what Aegis is designed to deliver. If you want to see what it looks like to stop the leak, to actually capture your organization's institutional intelligence before the next wave of retirement hits, apply now for the Aegis pilot. We'll assess your current exposure, identify your highest value knowledge capture targets, and show you the sovereign architecture that fits your environment. The link is in the description. However, if you're benchmarking before you commit, take the AI Strategic Orientation Scorecard first. It takes just 2 minutes, and it's linked below. It'll help you find out whether you're building a sovereign asset or just accumulating more digital debt.